Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Coming back from a day trip to Manhattan. Get to Penn Station too late to catch the last train to Long Island. Two friends are exhausted from being out all night and sleep on the floor. I stayed awake because I didn't want to miss the next train as well. Drinking an energy drink and browsing the internet on my phone while my buddies sleep in a secluded area of Penn Station. Not many people around. Notice an old homeless dude leaning against a wall about 40 feet away. Have bad eyesight, but it looks like he's staring angrily at me. Also looks like his mouth is moving, but I can't hear him saying anything. Dude also looks crazy as shit. Is wearing an old matted up fur coat, 20 plus necklaces and 2 pairs of over-ear headphones. One around his neck, one on his head. I'm alert and pretending to browse my phone while keeping this guy in my peripheral vision because he's sketching me out. He's walking towards us now, really slowly, and kinda crouched down like he's gonna sprint. 35 feet away now. I can hear that he is in fact mumbling, can't hear what though. 30-ish feet away now, starting to make out what he's saying. 20 feet away, I hear what he's mumbling to himself. I gotta kill him. I don't want to, but I gotta fucking kill him. Nope. Immediately wake my friends up and we go stand by police officers in the more populated area. An hour later, we're boarding our train. Take our seats and I lean my head on the window because I'm tired as shit. Looking out the window, I see the same hobo staring at me still from behind a pillar. He notices that I see him and hides behind it. Crazy hobos are scary as shit, man. No idea what was going on with that guy.
That one reminds me of one of my favorite hobos ever. He used to hang out in one of the stations in downtown San Francisco, and he'd just stand there screaming insults at everybody who passed by. The thing is, the guy was a comedy genius, and the shit he'd say was side-splitting, like he'd immediately find the funniest and most messed up thing about a person and then phrase it in the most hilarious way possible. It was pretty awesome, actually. Also, another crazy San Francisco hobo thing I once saw was over by the Greyhound terminal. We were sitting in traffic and suddenly heard all of these loud, sharp screams. We turned around to look and saw this hobo trying with all of his might to force his body into like a 3-inch gap between 2 concrete pillars, and was still doing it when we finally drove off like 5 minutes later. My ex joked that he was trying to get to Diagon Alley. Another bum I once saw in San Francisco was going absolutely psycho full Mike Tyson mode on a tree, screaming insults at it as if it were a person, and just beating the shit out of this thing.
Be about 10 years ago, homeless, sleeping in my car behind where I was working. Wake up to the sound of someone trying to open the back passenger side door. Get out and confront a raggedy-looking guy. He asks me if I've ever seen this symbol and holds out a white handkerchief with a small red cross in the corner of it. Tell him that it seems to be the Knights Templars. He congratulates me for knowing that and asks for my help. Ask him what's up. Tells me he wants me to help him kill some witches that he saw at the church up the street. Refuse because what the fuck. He pulls out and opens a shitty liquor store folding knife. Insists that we go kill them. Compliment his knife and pull my own rusty blade from my coat sleeve, saying, "This is what I carry." Pick related, except rusted and pitted to shit. Would leave a nasty wound. He stammers for a second and then hops on his bike and fucks off. Go back in my car, lock the doors again, and go back to sleep because I have to work tomorrow. Fuck being homeless. work my ass off, and get off the streets.
Have had a couple weird experiences within the last couple years or so. One of them. Be me, 19 at the time. Have some early morning classes downtown. Around about 1 p.m. I started to get hungry, so I decided to go grab some lunch at a burger place just a couple blocks away from my school. Walk in and order, have headphones on. Just as I'm finishing my food, feel a hand on my shoulder from directly behind me, and another hand removing my headphones. Turn around to expect a buddy. Young hijab woman, probably about in her mid to late 20s. First thing I notice is her teeth, and that god-awful breath. Close enough to my face that I backed away, startled. She has a nervous, sort of shy-type smile. Glassy eyes. Creepy part is, she's not really making direct eye contact. Looking between my eyes, if you will. Tears start rolling down her face. She stutters out. Please tell me you're from H. Headley. She steps closer and puts her hand on my chest. I shove her hand away and think of what is happening. Get the fuck away from me, I manage to say. She looks at the young girl working the cash, the poor girl obviously confused as well. The lady looks back at me, starts to cry, like sobbing and wailing. God, why? I have to help you. You can't do it alone. She's screaming at me. She starts to slide down to the floor like a kid throwing a tantrum, hysterical at this point. Young girl at the counter asking if I wanted her to call the police. It's okay, I choked out. Still don't know why I said that. The lady grabs onto my pant leg. I've had enough, put my shoe on her shoulder and shove her hard away from me. She's screaming something I can't understand because she's crying so hard at this point as I'm swinging the door of the restaurant open. Probably 30 minutes later, I make it to the train. She's sitting on the other side of the platform against the wall, nobody else there, sobbing with her mouth wide open. She looks up and sees me. My heart is pounding. Just completely stops crying, mid-wail. Wipes her face with her hoodie and just gives me a nervous smile and a wave. I get on my train and try to comprehend everything as it pulls away. The worst part was, it was so quiet at the train station due to her and I being the only ones there, apart from one businessman. You could hear the exact moment she cut off mid-scream when she noticed me, like when someone picks up a baby and they just stop crying. More disturbing than anything that had happened. Obviously never saw her again, thank God.
The lady was clearly disoriented and confused and distraught due to the former two. You should have called the police. They would have helped her get the help she clearly needed.
A couple years ago, in line at Starbucks close to my house, an obviously homeless guy comes in, and he is the scariest looking guy you've ever seen. Long black matted dreads, over 6'2" to 6'3" or so, filthy, covered in rags and carrying bags and backpacks and all kinds of shit. He walks towards the line, and as he approaches, this smell comes off him that is indescribable. People seated around start actually leaving. It's that bad. Absolutely revolting. He walks straight to the front of the line and orders the smallest coffee. "Whatever you have?" He pulls out a big purse and starts pulling money by the coin from it, mainly pennies and very small currency. It's taking him so long to find the right coins that the barista offers him the coffee for free. He stops dead and loudly declares, "It can't be free. I have to pay." He finds the exact change after a good 5 minutes or so and takes the coffee and leaves. The smell lingered for the duration of my visit and cleared the place out after a short while. Days later, sitting at my desk by the window, I get a sudden breeze, and that smell comes back, just for a moment. I went to my window expecting to see him down on the street, but there was nothing.
Oh shit, here's a fun story for y'all. 2015. I work with people with mental, physical, and emotional disabilities, so I'm on call if someone can't come in. Get called in for a morning shift. Heading out to my car at like 5 a.m. in the parking lot next to my apartment building behind the bank next door. Get in and gotta drive out of the bank parking lot and to a four-way stoplight on the main street. It is empty as shit except for this chick dressed in a warm coat and snow boots. It's still dark out and cold, so I don't pay her any mind. Until she sees me in my car and waves me down, phone in hand and looking panicked. Crack the window and lock the doors because no. What's up? Hi, my name is Amanda, and I was wondering if you could give me a ride home because there's this van that's been following me for about 20 minutes, and I'm freaked out. Look down the road. There's a van just idling about 100 feet back. Oh shit.jpg. Ask her where she lives, and it's literally a minute and a half down the street by car, but through a patch with no streetlights and shit. I hesitate and wave her in as she's looking scared, and she thanks me profusely. Start driving rather fast when the light turns and head to her house. She's chattering fast and looking out the back window, nervous, and 911 pre-dialed on her phone, just in case. Yo, you're not some crazy loon who's gonna stab me, right? She assures me she isn't and looks pale. The van has started up and is way too close. Make it through a red light and right to her house. She thanks me again, runs from the car and bolts to her house, heading in through the side door. The light hasn't turned, and the street is empty besides me in the van. U-turn illegally and blitz past the van, which had just made it through the green light. Two big-ass guys in the front glare at me as I drive by. Still skeeved out, but then worse when I see the van has U-turned as well. Start making random turns down neighborhoods I know, freaked out. The van is still right on my ass. Made it. The van is right on my fucking ass. Can you fucking please, web him? The van speeds past me. One dude gives me the blow hand motion and the other flips me off. Somehow offended but afraid they'd follow me to the home I was working at that morning. They speed in front of me and block me whenever I switch lanes and do quick stops, trying to get me to rear-end them. They speed off right before I hit my exit. Amanda better be happy I drove her home.
So this isn't creepy, it's more sad, but this is the sad stories of homeless, hookers, and crazies thread. Not the creepy people encounters thread, apparently. Be me. Early morning, weekday, running errands early because I was up all night reading /x/, getting money out of the bank, ATM. Cross the street to walk to a fast food place. The police station is on this street. Next to the police station is the parking lot where cops park their cars when they come into work. Walking past this parking lot now. The parking lot is bordered by thorny bushes. Notice a suitcase in the bushes. What's this? A free suitcase? For me? Why, universe, you shouldn't have. Lean over and get a closer look. Become aware of a jacket scrunched up next to the suitcase. This is all in the thorn bushes still. Jacket starts to move. There is a man in the jacket. Homeless man sleeping in thorny bushes next to the police station. Say, "Oh, sorry to bother you. Quickly walk to the fast food joint. My town is pretty shitty to the homeless. I rely on public transportation. And I've become aware over the last few years how few benches there are in the town. They've all been removed. in order to keep homeless people from sleeping on them. Also, every place that has free Wi-Fi also has a 30-minute loitering limit now. It's bizarre and really depressing. I mean, how many of us are one missed paycheck away from sleeping in the thorny bushes next to the police station? I mean, when you think about it, you know what I mean?
I have admittedly been the weird or creepy person in a lot of other people's stories over the years, but I've also encountered a few myself. First story that comes to mind, which actually turned out pretty long and is probably more boring and anticlimactic than its length may indicate. Back in early 2012, I was living with some friends at a house that was walking distance from my parents' house, about a 25-minute walk. A couple of women had been murdered recently. 2 separate incidents in the neighborhood on a nearby jogging trail, both in the early hours of the morning. The perpetrator remained at large. One night, my dad had asked me to come over for breakfast early the following morning. I get up early and leave a little after 7 to walk over. The whole time, from the moment I got out of bed, I have a really weird, anxious feeling, like something very fucked up is going to happen on the way over. I still got ready and headed out, but it was one of those situations where I just knew my gut was right about this, and part of me was just saying in the back of my head, dude, what is the point of doing this? You know you're just going to encounter the fucked up thing and bail for home as soon as you notice it. Do you really need so badly to confirm that that's what's going to happen? My main motive for eschewing gut feeling and setting out anyway was honestly probably just the concern that I would have to listen to really annoying complaining from my dad if I called and canceled or asked for a ride. So I round the block onto the nearby arterial. I'm the only person on the road, no cars either. It was a Sunday morning, so not too odd, although it was still more likely than not to see at least one car there at that time of day. Across the street in a park, I see a very large young man just sort of stumbling around. He looks disoriented, like he's very drunk or been hit in the head a few times. He seems to be moving about aimlessly and is holding a long metal object in one hand. Looked like it might have been a steel pipe. Immediately, I get the feeling that this guy is going to be a huge problem for me if I interact with him in any way. I am usually extremely good at talking to odd sorts of people whom most would dismiss as mentally ill and seek to avoid, but something told me that this guy was a bit fucked in the head, and that there would be no possibility of reasoning with him if I allowed him to get close to me. The thought briefly crosses my mind that this guy could be the uncaught killer, but I don't want to get all witch-hunty and start suspecting every oddball I encounter of such heinous crimes, so I push the thought from my mind for the time being. I decided to just keep going. He's pretty far away, hasn't acknowledged my presence, and I'm pretty good at putting off a fuck off, don't approach me vibe anyway. A few seconds after I come to this decision, he turns in my direction. I can't make out his facial expression too well at this distance, especially with the angle of the still rising sun, but I know this fucker is looking at me now. I pretend not to notice him and hope he'll just return to walking around the park for no reason after his surprise at seeing one of the other humans subsides, but, as expected, no such luck. He stays still for a few seconds, just staring, then starts heading right in my direction. He still has a stumbling or waddling sort of gait, but he's clearly actually moving with purpose toward a destination. A bit faster and totally different from his pointless meanderings earlier. Immediately, I think, yeah, fuck this. I knew something like this was going to happen today. Turn around and start speed walking back home. Luckily, I hadn't advanced very far down the arterial, and he was still a good distance away, so I was able to dodge back into the residential roads and elude him easily. He probably would have had to come at me at a full-speed sprint to have had any chance of reaching me if I didn't want him to under the conditions of our encounter. After wandering down some back roads a bit to prevent any chance of him seeing me return to where I live, I checked that the coast is clear on the road my home is on, which is actually the residential road in that neighborhood leading directly out onto the arterial. Hence why I went off course a bit, since he could easily have seen where I live if he had just reached that street before I got indoors, and head for home. I called my dad inside, explaining the situation to him candidly, pre-departure gut feelings and all. He is annoyed and complains, thinking my reasoning is stupid, but I shoot him down pretty quickly with something along the lines of, "Well, that's what the situation is on my end, so if you want to meet up this morning, you're going to have to pick me up." He agrees to do so. As I'm waiting for my dad to arrive, I remember something my friend who I now live with had told me about 2 years previously. It was a very disturbing dream he had in which I had killed a large man outside of his house. He lived in the same house, but I hadn't moved in with him yet at the time he had this dream. It seemed like a pretty short dream, just him having to talk to a bunch of police outside, seeing me talking to them, and getting a look at the guy's body. My friend had described in detail how this guy had looked, and the wounds I'd inflicted on his body. He said it was some of the most vivid imagery he had ever seen before in a dream. I remember him telling me this, and realized the description he gave of my dream victim was pretty much a dead ringer for the guy I had just seen. Of course, there's only so much information that can be gleaned from someone else's description of their dream to you, so I don't think it unequivocally held any significance. But it's still something that comes to mind when I think back on this, how easily that could have ended differently if I hadn't turned back when I did. Because as it turned out, that guy was the murderer. He was caught after a while, and I saw his picture in the newspaper. No question it was him. I also later heard from one of my mom's co-workers who commutes by that park every morning that she had seen him wandering around there sometimes on her way to work, and also recognized him as the murderer from the newspaper photos. Not sure whether my friend's dream was some prognostic what-if scenario or not, but something very similar to how his dream played out was a completely realistic possibility that morning. I don't know whether I would have won against him or not if it had come down to a confrontation, but I don't think I'd have hesitated to try to open up that fucker's throat if I'd felt my life was in danger. As for the murderer himself, he was apparently only 17 years old, despite being a fucking giant. He was also extremely screwed up mentally, had a really bad family life with a mother nearly as insane as he was, and seemed to just have a general aggression toward women from bad family experiences, and consistently being avoided and shunned throughout for fairly obvious reasons by other females. The guy was legitimately nuts, and toward the lower end of the intelligence spectrum as well. I never bothered to follow up on what happened with him, but it's very possible that he was deemed incompetent to stand trial.
Any news articles about the murderer?
Although according to that article, this shit actually went down in summer 2012, so I was apparently remembering the time frame wrong. I had said early 2012. I moved out of that house in mid-September, so this must have been one of the last really memorable things to happen to me there. I could have sworn it was earlier in the year. I was also apparently misremembering about him having killed 2 people. There had been 2 attacks by the time I encountered him, but only one of the women seems to have died. Anyway, though, that was the guy, Avondre Graham. Never mind, was just skimming the article when I said I remembered the time frame wrong. The woman who died was attacked in May, which sounds closer to what I remember. I guess this article only mentioned her, but I know another woman had been attacked by him in the same period. Pretty sure the attacks happened within a few days of each other. I still feel like I remembered there having been 2 women killed by him at that time, but I doubt the article would have mentioned one murder while omitting the other, so that much I probably did have wrong.
I've never told anyone about this story. I will apologize in advance if it sounds really mundane and boring, but it really set me off for weeks after, and I still get shivers from thinking about it. Be in London for a weekend trip to see a concert. Go to McDonald's for some food. Sit with a friend at one of the larger tables, seating around 12 people because all the smaller booths were taken. Friends sitting next to me, eating burgers, all is fine. Then enters a woman with some sort of cast around her arms, covering some of her face. Her clothes were some sort of white big robes, kinda like a poncho, but it looked like silk. She sits across from me and my friend at the same table. I really can't describe it well enough, but she emitted a really, really creepy atmosphere. It was in broad daylight, in a really crowded place, but I somehow felt scared shitless. Also, she brought sushi, not McDonald's, which is weird in itself, I guess. Her eyes were hazel gold, her skin the color like the murals of Egyptians, and the texture seemed off, like made of sand. Me and my friend look at each other, and we both feel something weird. Feels almost like time stopped. When we look back up, we can't help but look at her. Her eyes are locked on our eyes, while everything around us looked like a blurry haze, and the sound just disappeared. Somehow managed to break eye contact, even though it felt like she was looking right through us, or into us. No one else at the table seemed to be bothered at all, just stuffing their faces. Without looking at each other, me and my friend simultaneously take our trays and stand up to leave. Still feeling really off, but had the urge to look back. She's still looking at us, and it makes me so anxious. Me and my friend talked about it immediately after, and we both felt the same thing I just described. I don't know, it still creeps me out. I'm bad at remembering faces, but sometimes I see her face as broad as daylight in front of me.
Be 16 or 17, waiting for the school bus in the morning. Live like 35 to 40 miles away from my school, so the bus shows up at like 5:30 in the morning. Super dark out, standing underneath the streetlight. Always been a paranoid person, so I just try to listen to music and zone out. Song ends, deep in thought, so I really didn't notice. Suddenly hear faint banging noise. Look over to where I hear it. There's a dude standing in front of the door of the closed general store across the street, kicking it and pulling on the door handle. Big-looking bald guy wearing what looked like typical tourist clothes. Tropical shirt, cargo shorts, sandals, etc. Just kind of looking at him. Eventually he stops and gets in his car, starts driving in my direction, stops like right in front of me. Still on the road, middle of the lane, not moving. Rolls down his window and sticks his head out. Real jovial look on his face. "Oh, hey, Anon. Long time no see." This guy knows my name. Not surprised parents know a lot of people in the neighborhood, and I have trouble remembering everyone. Assume he's one of my parents' friends. "Yeah, must have been. Trying to get some last-minute shopping in," I say while casually gesturing over to the store. looks over at it and just stares slack-jawed for a moment before going, yeah, I left something in there. Huh, okay. So, you still in high school? Yeah, I'm waiting for the bus now, actually. Then he just kind of stares at me expectantly. Looks exactly like he's waiting for something and I have no idea what. Stares at me in silence for several minutes. I don't say anything. Eventually, the bus comes. As I get on, I see his face change to a mix of anger and disappointment. He drives off as the bus pulls away. I asked my parents, and they had no idea who he was. Haven't seen him since.
Me and my roommate were walking home from uni. It's around 10 at night, so no one is really out. This girl in a fuzzy jacket comes up to us and greets us like old friends. I'm not from the area, and he's friends with everyone in town, so I assume it's just someone he went to school with. Ask her how she is, and she says, "My friends are assholes. They left me out here while they mess around in there," and points to a long-ass building. It looks like a seedy motel. He gets a phone call, so me and the girl have a cigarette together, and I tell her about the time my friends ditched me while we were out in the city to go clubbing. We say our goodbyes and head home. I ask him who the chick was, and he says he's never actually met her before. Look back, and she's gone. Walk past the seedy building she pointed to the next day. Discover it's actually a preschool. To this day, I have no idea who she was, why she acted as if she knew us, what her friends were doing in the preschool at that time of night, or if they even existed, or why she left or disappeared right after we walked away.
My mum's very paranoid. I had strict instructions that unless it was her dad or gran, I shouldn't go with anyone unless she had explicitly told us to, even if they knew our names or we actually knew them. This made me paranoid since I felt like something happening was inevitable. When I was about 7, I had recurring nightmares of someone with my mum's face picking me up from school. Then once I was locked in the car, taking off their mask and being someone else. Anyway, the paranoia possibly saved my life, or at least my virginity. School is out of town, surrounded mostly by fields and small roads or lanes. Roughly 14, petite, easy to kidnap. Walking to friend's house with friend, also small, we will call Amy, down a country lane. Just wide enough for a single car to go down. Don't usually walk home from school due to mum's paranoia, but with Amy going to her house, so it's cool. Just chatting, walking along when we see a car in the not-so-distant distance. Because of the winding roads and hedgerows, you can see the cars on that stretch of road from where we are. But then they disappear for a few minutes along a curve in the road, where there are 2 turnings, one going towards us, a road that not many people use because it's just a few houses and doesn't really lead anywhere, or a more popular road. I start to get a bad feeling and say this to Amy. Point out the car that has now stopped. He's looking in our direction. She writes it off as me being paranoid, says the car will probably turn off down the more popular route. Decide to trust her, but still have a bad feeling. Keep walking, making her go a bit faster than before. Start to hear that the car is on our road. If it had turned onto the other road, we wouldn't be able to hear the engine by that point. I tell friend that I want to hide from it before it comes into view. She thinks it's stupid, but I guess I look worried enough that she decides to humour me. Climb through a small hole in one of the hedgerows, technically onto someone's land, but my friend and her parents know most everyone in the area, so not worried about getting in trouble for it. Stand up behind the hedgerow. Luckily, it's tall and thick enough to keep us hidden, and start walking the same direction we were headed, just out of sight now. The car gets closer, not so worried now because we are hidden, and near enough to houses that I think we could run to them if we needed to. The car stops. and is idling in the road. Amy starts to agree this is a bit odd. We are probably 50 meters away from the car now. We stop and find a bit of the hedge that we can see through. Don't get a clear view, but see a guy get out of the car. He calls out, "Amy, do you and your friend want a lift?" We are shitting bricks now. Neither of us recognize him, but he knows her name. Decide to stay put because moving might make too much noise. He wanders around his car looking about, but luckily doesn't move more than a meter or two away from it. He gets back into the car and drives up to the road where there is a space you can turn around, then drives off the way he came. Had to drive past our hiding spot twice to leave. Thought I was going to have a heart attack. We wait until we can't hear or see the car, then run to Amy's house. Once we got there and calmed down, she persuaded me that it was probably nothing, just someone she knew and didn't recognize. So I didn't call the police or tell my mum because I was worried she'd stop me going to friends' houses. About a week after this, a girl from my school is chased down one of the country lanes and into a field by some guy. He knew her name. She bangs on a random person's door who lets her in and calls the police. They catch him, find what seems to be Chris Chan kit kind of stuff in his car, cable ties, gloves, condoms, etc. He confesses that he was going to Chris Chan her, but claims he wouldn't have murdered her. Knew her name from waiting near the school and listening to friends call out to each other. He gets locked up. Never confirmed if it was the same guy, but it seems like a hell of a coincidence if not. Amy isn't so laid back about shit now, and we both got paranoid for a while about our friends shouting our names in public in case someone weird overheard. Most people at the school who didn't have mobile phones, parents bought them at that point.
Not really a weird person story, but it was a very singular experience, at the time at least, and it upset me for a long time. Be me, 17 at the time. Do volunteer work at a charity store on weekends and occasionally after school. On my way home from volunteering one weekend, about 1 p.m., waiting at a bus stop across from a pub with a couple of other people. Disheveled old man leaves the pub and stands outside, squinting at the sun for a while. Starts to ramble through heavy, though slow, traffic to the bus stop. I'm polite and shy, so I don't mind when he sits beside me. Other people move away. Don't know why. He smells of booze. He says something along the lines of, "You're a pretty girl." I thank him politely and continue my silence because I don't want to die. He starts to sob. I'm sort of uncomfortable at this point, but I try to comfort him and ask if he's all good. He starts giving me a long grandfatherly lecture about not wasting my life like he did and telling me to put all my efforts into the things I want in life. Tells me about his many children who he never sees anymore, his failed marriage, his drunkenness, his wasted dreams, etc. Asks me questions like, "What do you want to be when you're older?" That sort of thing. I don't talk very much. I mostly listen to his drunken rambling and reply to questions. When my bus comes, I say goodbye. He thanks me for talking with him and pats my hand. Waves goodbye as my bus departs. Feels bad, man. I hope he's okay. He was very sweet.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.